We're back here on Southeastern 16. Chase Robinson, that's Chris Lee, as we are reacting to the AP preseason poll that is out. And, it's about to be college football season, Chris, when these polls start rolling out. And we get the AP poll, which is one we get every week on Mondays during the season. Today, they released a preseason poll. We'll dive into it more in just a minute. But first, let's tell you about BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the UFC to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, go to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker or one of the over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, Chris, like I said, big day. The AP poll is out, and the SEC, to no surprise, looks pretty good in the preseason AP poll. Quite a few teams from the SEC, 9 to be exact, in the top 25.
Yeah, 9 in the top 20 to be exact, and 4 of the top 6. A very heavy SEC presence, a pretty heavy Big Ten presence too. And oh, by the way, no group of 5 teams inside the top 25, which is a college football fan I kind of hate to see. I know it's not like this is the final rankings, but that tells you how tough it has gotten if you're a group of 5 team.
Yeah, so Georgia is number 1, just to run through the SEC teams. Georgia number 1, Texas 4, Alabama 5, Ole Miss 6. You've got LSU 13, Tennessee 15, Oklahoma 16, Texas A&M 20. Again, that is 9 teams out of the SEC in the preseason top 25 and in the top 20. But no surprise at all that Georgia is number 1. I did think it's interesting. You have Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, all 4, 5, and 6 right there together.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that the SEC got this many teams in the top 20. I've felt all along that you've got maybe 9 playoff contenders in different tiers. All 9 teams here are represented. You spoke about Georgia. And by the way, the top 4 teams, I think just about everything you see, and I don't know if it's that people think the teams are that clear or there's a little bit of a group think, because look, at this point of the year, we've all looked at SP Plus and FPI and Athlon and Lindy's, and it feels like everybody's coming up with the same top 4 teams. But interestingly, back to Georgia, Georgia got 46 number 1 votes. Ohio State got 15. Oregon got 1. I don't think anybody else got a number 1 vote, which is a little surprising. You would have thought that Alabama or Texas or maybe even Ole Miss or somebody would have gotten one. But I thought that the continued consensus of those top 4 and with Georgia is everybody's overwhelming favorite, which is really hard to do in this era of parity, where last year we saw the 4 teams that made the playoffs didn't include 2 teams that ranked number 1 in November in the playoff rankings. I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't mention Missouri. I don't believe I mentioned Missouri when I was going through the list. I skipped over them there at number 11. But yeah, the SEC shaping up good in the preseason poll. Obviously, this is just, again, preseason. Not a snap has been played, so much will change. Chris, do you see any SEC teams that you feel like should have been higher, maybe moved around a little bit on the poll?
Well, here's my question. I'm wondering, like, is the poll trying to predict the outcome at the end of the season, or is this a power rankings? In other words, forget the schedule. I think these are the best 25 teams. Maybe people decide those differently. I could argue Ole Miss should be higher. I could argue, you know what I think of Oklahoma. I think that's a really good team with the brutal schedule. I could argue putting the Sooners a little bit higher. I mean, I feel like the AP poll is, Chase, it's always been the one that everybody looks at and respects the most. So I wasn't like expecting to look at it and say, wow, these guys get this way wrong. There's nothing to me that's glaring, but if you want to paint around the edges a little bit. Those were a couple things that occurred to me.
Yeah, to me, I'm really curious of the placement of Tennessee and Oklahoma, why they're 15 and 16. Again, why Oklahoma may not be a little higher, what made Tennessee 15. And Missouri as well after last season. Are they worthy of a top 10 placement in this poll? I feel like Missouri maybe could be the number 10 if you shift around Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, and Florida State. Get Missouri in the top 10, I feel like.
I'll tell you one who's interesting here, too, going outside the SEC, because I'm with you on Missouri. That's one that I think a lot of people have built the schedule into a playoff implication. I'm not saying the roster isn't good enough, but I don't think Missouri is as good this year as it was last year. I'll tell you one that's interesting to me outside the SEC, that's Michigan, because the Michigan lost, 10 offensive starters. And of course, you're Michigan, you rebuild at a high level, but that's one to me that I also thought, like, I'm not quite sold. And I don't know Michigan's roster like I do the SEC, but with that many losses, it's hard to plant yourself back inside the top 10. Oh, by the way, new coaching staff.
Yeah. What about A&M being 20? I mean, does that surprise you? I mean, obviously, I feel like A&M is a really good football team. Are you surprised that they got to 20?
No, I feel like that's about what we've seen. And again, if you are projecting final ranking, the schedule feels conducive to getting the Aggies there.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I felt like with all the changes in College Station, I felt like they were going to be in the top 25. I just didn't think it would be 20. I thought they may put them a little bit lower, but and this sets up some really good matchups in week one. We've previewed a couple of these already, but North Carolina State, they are number 24. They get the Tennessee Vols, who are number 15. You've got of course, Notre Dame, who is number 7, LSU number 13 in this poll. Texas A&M 20, Notre Dame 7 there. You got LSU, who's taking on USC first week, USC number 23. So there's going to be quite a few, as we thought, ranked matchups in week one, which will be really fun.
Yeah, as I count them, Georgia 1, Clemson 14, that's 1. LSU 13, Southern Cal 23. That's a Sunday night game. A&M and Notre Dame, as you mentioned. And I think there's one more. Who have we left out here? Or maybe I miscounted.
We got Texas, Michigan week 2.
Yeah, I knew that was early. I knew that wasn't week 1. Florida didn't make the top 25, but it does get a Miami team that entered the poll at 19. So that's a top 25 team on the SEC schedule, even if both of them aren't there. And another one, Virginia Tech just missed making the top 25. It was second in those receiving votes or others receiving votes. Of course, Tech draws Vanderbilt in week 1. Of course, Vanderbilt didn't get any votes, to no surprise. But that's a lot of top 25 teams that we're going to see the SEC play in week 1, and that's exciting to me.
It sure is. So that is the AP Top 25, the SEC faring very well when you look at the preseason AP Top 25 poll that came out today. We got you covered all things SEC football here on Southeastern 16. Subscribe to our channel. You can like this video as well. Drop a comment on maybe some changes you would like to see in the poll as far as the teams out today. We will do this for football, basketball, and baseball year-round as we talk SEC sports. You can, again, subscribe to our channel here at Southeastern 16, and we'll keep you covered with more here on our channel. For Chris Lee, I'm Chase Robinson. We'll see you next time.